Namaskar, friends. Today, in the third lecture in the series on Ayurvedic foods, we will be talking about fruits and vegetables. And as I proceed with the subsequent lectures, I will be using the information conveyed in the prior lectures, namely episode 1 on grains and episode 2 on legumes, nuts, and seeds, compiling that information together as we move forward into the realm of fruits and vegetables. So please watch the episode 1 and 2 before you watch this episode so that you can coherently synergize all the information and use the logic of Ayurveda to incorporate the foods. All right, my friends. So for fruits and vegetables, again, we will go through the basics, but today we will try to understand the Mahabhuts that are combining together to form the rasas and then use the information of the rasas to determine what kind of doshas are affected by those. So let's see. The first Mahabhut is Earth or Prithvi. Then there is Bhumi, Rapo, Nalo, Vayu. So Api. Api or Jal. Then there is Nal or Agni. Fire for Nal. The fourth one is of course air or Vayu. And the last one is Akash. Akash as in sky or vacuum, ether. So these are the 5 Mahabhuts that are composing or forming constituents of both our bodies as in Sthul Sharir and the Rasas. So let's see how these Mahabhuts will combine to form the 6 kinds of rasas. It's very important because fruits and vegetables have a lot of ras. So we have to understand the rasas especially because they're coming from the earth. Let's talk about the combination of Prithvi with Jal. The ras that comes out is Madhur or sweet. Now, what happens when there is combination of Jal with Agni? When Jal combines with Agni, there is formation of Amla. Amla is acid or sour. Madhur is sweet. The third one, let's first go in order, that will be probably better, is formation of fire with the air. When there is combination of element of fire or Agni with air, there is formation of Katu. Katu is different from Tikt. Tikt and Katu, and then there is of course Kashya. But Tikt refers to bitter and Katu refers to Tikha or pungent. So it's a little confusing that Tikt is not Tikha and Katu is not Kadwa, just opposite. And the last one of course is the formation or combination I should say of air and the element of Prithvi, which will form Kasya. Kasaya, Kasya refers to astringent. So you have all these 6 different tastes. Now if you think about, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the one I missed is Lavan. Lavan is the combination of element of earth with fire, and that creates the element of lavan. Lavan as in salt, salty taste. All right, so we have these 6 tastes. Now we know how these tastes are formed. The tastes of, we will write in an order so we understand: sweet or madhur, sour or acid, salty, lavan, pungent, which we talked about as katu, and bitter, and the last one is astringent. Now, if you remember my earlier lectures, I had told you this is the order you have to remember: sweet, sour, salty, pungent, bitter, astringent. It's important why it's in this sequence: madhur, amla, lavanya, katu, tikt, kasaya. That is the sequence in which we have to remember. Okay, so the first 3 are used for treatment of Vata dosh. The last 3 are used in the treatment of Kapha dosh. In between lies Pitta. So Pitta should be treated with sweet, Pitta should be treated with bitter, and Pitta should be treated with astringent. This is the treatment of Pitta. Okay, so using this logic here, we will circle around the fruits and vegetables and try to understand why it is so. Because Vat is composed of Vayu or air and Akash or ether. Similarly, Kapha is composed of Prithvi, Bhumi, earth, and Api or water. And lastly, Pitta is composed of Agni and Api or water. So this, if we know what it is composed of, we have to provide the complementary foods. That is why the treatment for Pitta is sweet, bitter, astringent. So let's try to put the fruits and vegetables in this sequence. So Vat. When you think of Vat in terms of grains, grains are Guru, Madhur. So those are Madhur, sweetness is good for Vat in general. Except it should not be Ruksha. Some grains are grown in arid regions, so they can have less water, that can aggravate the Vat. But then will be better for the grains for the Kapha. In general, because they are Madhur, you don't want it to give to the Kapha people. Similarly, legumes. Legumes are Sheet and Ruksh, so they are no in Vat, but very good in Kapha. Pitta people, they can eat both legumes and grains, but in moderation, and they have to know their secondary predisposition, whether it's Vata Pitta or Kapha Pitta. Then they will decide what kind of foods to eat. But today's lecture is only on fruits and vegetables. So let's concentrate on fruits and vegetables. For Vat people, the best fruits for Vat people are the fruits which are close to the ground, because Vat is Vayu and Akash up in the air. Provide the complementary, provide close to the ground. Sthira. Then you want to provide them fruits and vegetables which are easily digestible. Because the Vat, the digestion and immunity are weak, and Kapha, the immunity and digestion is strong. So Vat people can eat the fruits and vegetables that have a lot of rasa, because they are dry, ruksh from the air. Their body sheath because of the sheath tendencies of Akash and Vayu, and because they are needing nourishment of Brahman, and that comes from the Madhur or earth, because Prithvi itself represents Madhur. So Vat people should eat baked, cooked, stewed, anything that is able to break down the cell wall of the cells so the food is more easily digestible, because they want stuff that can be easily digested and the thing that can move. So baked, you can think of applesauce, prunes, uh, apple pie, anything that is madhur and cooked in certain way, baked, stewed. So those kind of things, plums, all those things are good for the people who are Vata. What kind of fruits are not good for Vata? Sweet, sour, salty is good. So any fruit that is bitter or astringent, so tannin rich foods, things like strawberries, they cannot eat too much of strawberries. Similarly, they cannot eat too much bitter foods. And in general, anything that is dried, because dryness, ruksha, is already there in Vata. So dried dates, dried coconut flakes, anything that is dried should not be fed to them, because the tendency of dryness or ruksha is to aggravate the Vata. So the Vata conditions will get worse if you give them dried dates. So you give them baked and things that are having lot of rasa, sugarcane juice, watermelon juice, amazing for Vata people. Okay, now let's talk about vegetables. Again, vegetables have to be processed, and the process is steaming. If you steam the vegetables, boil the vegetables, cook the vegetables well, then you can give most of the vegetables, especially which have a sweet tendency. So think about things like sweet potato. They are great. Anything that is coming from the ground. So even tamasic foods like onions, especially garlic. And also remember, they need something that is Ushna, because Ushna is the heat. Vayu Vat being composed of Vayu and Akash is Ruksha and dry and Sheet or cold. So you want to increase the temperature. Not only you give hot foods which are cooked by the Agni, you give them food which have a hot nature. The hot nature things are things like cinnamon, cardamom, clove, cumin, jeera, all these things, since they have a hot tendency, the herb has a hot tendency, it potentiates the Agni, and also it creates Ushna or sensation of heat in the body. So they will do better with these hot spices which are going to rev them up. So that is the tendency, but don't mistake hot for pungent. I did not say pungent. Sweet, sour, salty are the food types that Vata people should have. Hot is the tendency of Ushna without creating more of the pungent tendency. Okay, that is Vata. Let's talk about Kapha. Just the opposite of what you do in Vata, because Kapha is about Prithvi and water. There's a tendency to be Snigdha. Snigdha is unctuous, greasy. So since they are greasy, they need something which is dry. So dry dates, dry fruits, dry nuts, but not in excess, because Kapha has slow metabolism. Remember, the Agni is Mandagni. So you want to give small portions to Kapha people because they will easily put on weight, especially if you give them sweet things. That is why although seeds are good, grains are good, because they are nourishing, or Brahman, Kapha cannot handle too much because the Madhur tendency will slow them down. They are already having problems with mobility. Constipation is the prime problem with Kapha people. So keep it dry and keep it acid, because acidic fruits, citrus fruits, sour fruits like lime, lemon, grapes, grapefruits, all of them are oranges, are great for the people with Kapha, because there is also rasa there, but more importantly, it is able to rev up the metabolism because of the tendency for them to have some tendency of astringents. Astringents contain tannins. Tannins are good for the people with Kapha. Okay, so you can eat vegetables also, but they should be steamed and small quantities. That's the main thing, because most vegetables are alkaline. Kapha people can handle them well. But more importantly, nothing should be eaten in excess because the metabolism is very slow. Third one is Pitta. The answer is in between. But the answer also lies in understanding that Pitta have two complementary opposite characters. Agni, which is more Ushna, and Water, which is more Shita. So they have to balance it very well because there's one thing which is heating them up and one thing which is cooling them down. So you have to see your secondary tendency. But if you ask only about Pitta, they will do great with raw fruits and vegetables, especially in the hot summer months. Also, they like juicy fruits. Also, they like sugary fruits. So, you should let them eat lots of sugarcane juice, watermelon juice, and all sorts of fruits and vegetables that have a little alkaloid nature. Because remember, not only sweets, which is the sweetness from the fruits that the pitta will crave, they also need something to balance the sweetness through the bitterness. The bitter alkaloid nature is provided by neem, karela, giloy, your pumpkin, of course, but more importantly, lauki. Those kind of things are great, karela. And also things which are naturally astringent, things like cabbage, cauliflower, celery. All of them are great because of the astringent nature. So if you know the basic characteristic of food, you know which one is good for Vata, Pitta and Kapha. So these are the basics. Now let's consider some allopathic connotations of fruits and vegetables. So I will quickly talk about three main things. One is the histamine content of food. Histamine is a molecule that creates inflammation, vasodilation, and it's a molecule that will create lot of irritation of the skin, itchiness of the skin, urticaria, and sometimes vasodilation, and worst cases, drop in blood pressure. So histamine reaction can happen from shellfish, alcohol, meats, but certain foods will also cause it. These are the foods such as greens as well as tomato, avocado, eggplant or brinjal. They are histamine bombs, especially tomatoes and avocados have a lot of histamine that can cause a lot of inflammation. Guess what? Histamine is a problem primarily of people with pittaika conditions, too much of pitta in the body. Also, it can happen with people with vatika conditions, excess of vat in the body because of the green leafy vegetables that contains histamine. Second molecule is, since this is inflammatory, you have to avoid it if you have pitta body. Kapha people can deal with histamine rich foods, but also there is something called skifa. Skifa is short chain fatty acids which are found in prebiotics, not probiotics, prebiotics. Prebiotics is a class of food such as onions, leeks, garlic, your foods that are naturally rich in complex carbohydrates, wheat bran, oat, barley. Those kind of things are going to be rich in prebiotics or complex carbohydrates which cannot be broken down by our stomach and intestine, and the unfermented, undigested complex carbohydrates are going in the colon where the good bacteria is breaking it down to release skifa or short chain fatty acids, namely acetates, propionates, butyrates, which are chemicals which are going to create systemic anti-inflammatory response. So your body is not too prone to allergies. Even worst case scenario, if you think about the gut, the worst anti-inflammatory condition you can get is inflammatory bowel disease. Inflammatory, hence ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. Not irritable bowel syndrome. We are talking about inflammatory bowel disease, which is a big disease. So ulcerative colitis and Crohn's, there is some suggestion can get better if you are consuming foods that are rich in skifa or short chain fatty acids. Probiotics will not have the same effect as prebiotics because probiotics are kind of supplements, and by the time you eat the probiotic, the acid in the stomach can destroy the bacteria. So the live bacteria which are helping to break down the complex carbohydrates such as lactobacillus, streptococcus, bifidus, those good bacteria are going to be called probiotics, and the substrate or food on which they act to break it down, that is the prebiotic. You want the yantra tantra mantra or the prebiotic, probiotic and skifa to be occurring together inside your stomach and not just pop a pill. That is why I'm so much against supplements, because supplements most of the times will not work and most of us are not going to absorb it. The bioavailability or ability of the body to absorb, digest, and assimilate the nutrient is horribly lacking in case of supplements. What you eat, you are going to pee it out as vitamins in the urine. So histamine foods you have to avoid, especially people who have Pitta and Vatika conditions. Kapha people can still tolerate some allergies. Whereas short chain fatty acids are foods that are naturally having a lot of anti-inflammatory properties, and skifa is generated by the colonic bacteria, the good bacteria, and hence we will be protected from lot of inflammatory conditions. The barrier of the intestine with the blood is protected by short chain fatty acids. So try to eat foods that are rich in prebiotics or fibers, which again are foods like wheat bran and oil, leeks, onions, garlics, asparagus, all those artichokes, all those things are very rich in prebiotics, and even moong dal is good source of prebiotics. So you have to use those foods, and that will help you remain anti-inflammatory. Anti-inflammatory is very important for Pitta people. Pitta people, pro-inflammatory. Hence you want to cut down. Hence they have to eat foods that are low in histamine and high in skifa. Vata people in general, they will have some tendencies. Vata is degeneration. Pitta is pro-inflammation. And Kapha is accumulation obstruction. That is the dosha. So you have to eat foods accordingly. So I think this is all I wanted to cover in today's lecture. Fruits and vegetables. I will see you soon in our episode 4 of Ayurvedic foods to continue this discussion. Jai Shri Ram.